right, the terrorist invasion of Israel early this month echoes the unprecedented chaos at our own southern border, where in fiscal year 2023, all records have been shattered. Border Patrol have had more immigrant encounters, including a record number of encounters with suspects on the terrorist watch list than ever before. And if we're not paying attention to this, and unfortunately I don't think we are, at least the Biden administration is not, this could be deadly. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas and FBI Director Christopher Wray testified before the Senate Homeland Security Committee today, but they refused to answer whether members of Hamas, Hezbollah, and other Iranian-backed terrorist groups had illegally crossed the southern border. Joining me now to discuss this, Senator Rick Scott from Florida, who is leading the effort to keep Israel support separate from other spending, like we were just talking about with Congressman McCormick. He serves on 4 Senate committees, including the Senate Committee on Homeland Security, Government Affairs, and the Senate Budget Committee. Senator Scott, welcome back to the program.
Great to be with you, Tony. Yeah, we had a hearing today, and my goal is to really make sure people know what the risk is, and so they wake up. I mean, I think October 7th was a wake-up call to America. When you see that the hatred, the evil that these Hamas terrorists did to individuals, where they cut off babies' heads, they raped young girls and burned them alive, burned babies. I mean, all these horrible things. Could that happen here? I don't want it to happen here. So that was my question today is, what is America? What's our risk in America to Hamas and Hezbollah and other terrorist groups?
Senator, you said it's a wake-up call. I'm not sure it is a wake-up call for this administration. I mean, they continue to do the same thing they did before.
I don't, here's what I don't understand. I don't care whether you're Republican or Democrat, you should love your family, right? So 70,000 people dying of fentanyl overdose a year because there's an open border. I mean, why don't the Democrats want to solve this in Biden? And you look at what happened in Israel, you see the hatred to Jews in this country. And you see these open borders. You look at how many people have come from Iran, in Iraq, in Syria, in Afghanistan, completely unvetted, that are around our country. And think about this for a second. 19 terrorists with box cutters killed 2,700 some Americans back in 9/11. And if you look at Hamas, all they had was a few vehicles and guns. And they killed 1,400 Israelis and Americans, and they still have, close to 300 people, including at least 10 Americans hostage in Gaza. So,
Senator, I know that these hearings are a part of the oversight. I mean, this is part of your responsibility as a senator. But they are so evasive. They never answer questions. It's like they're gotaways. You're not able to get any answers out of them when you ask them a very direct question. That's got to be extremely frustrating.
I don't know if you saw today, though, when I asked Director Wray if we were safer now than when Biden took office, he had a very difficult time coming up with an answer. He took a long time to come up with an answer because he doesn't want to say the truth, that we are way more dangerous now.
I'm looking to see if I actually have that clip. I wanted to play that if I have it. I don't know. Do we have that clip? All right. Well, we'll see if we have that clip. I know we've got some of the other clips from today's testimony, but is there not some obligation for them to answer the questions of the senators that have oversight of their agencies?
Tony, here's what's really frustrating. The Democrats control the House committee or the Senate committees because they have a majority. And so because they have a majority vote on the committee, they never get held accountable. Here's what I don't understand. When we ask for information from places like the FBI or Homeland Security or Health and Human Services, they give us, either they don't respond, or they have redacted information, or they don't answer the question. So we are supposed to be the oversight committee, and unless the Democrats care about the issue, which they don't seem to care, that 70,000 Americans are dying of fentanyl overdose a year, that we have the risk of Hamas and Hezbollah here, and I guess maybe eventually when it impacts their family, they'll finally start caring. But they had to acknowledge today that, we have significant risk. We have significant risk of terrorist attacks in this country, not just from lone wolves, but from an organized effort by Iran and other places, and Hezbollah and Hamas, all these groups.
I want to switch topics before we run out of time. You've been leading the effort in the Senate to separate the funding for Israel, the emergency funding for Israel that the administration has requested from the additional $60+ billion that's being requested for Ukraine. Now, in the House, they've actually put forth a standalone bill just for Israel. What are the prospects of that bill when it comes over from the House in the Senate?
Well, I'm optimistic. First off, I think Speaker Johnson is going to do a good job. He's doing the right thing. He's separated it. What's happening in Israel is totally different than Ukraine. And remember, the Biden bill is a bill to help sanctuary cities. That's what it really is. So he separated that out, and he actually fiscally he's doing the right thing. He's going to make sure we pay for it. So I'm going to do everything I can to make sure we have a vote on this in the Senate, and I'm hopeful it'll pass. Here's what I think we ought to be doing right now. We have a majority in the House. We have a new Republican Speaker of the House. Let's support them, and let's don't undermine them by doing things by working with the Democrats over in the Senate. Let's stand with our Republican colleagues in the House.
Can you get the Republican leadership in the Senate to do that?
It's up to voters. As you know, I ran against Mitch McConnell last year because that's not what he's been doing. He's been voting with 10 or so other Republicans with Biden. It appears that he wants to do it with this. I think most of our conference doesn't want to do that. They want to separate it, and so I'm hopeful that's what will happen. And by the way, it's not going to pass. I always say it's not going to pass in the House. Why are we giving them the votes? It just undermines what Mike Johnson's trying to do over in the House.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. The Senate Republicans should support this new speaker who's trying to do the right thing, which is beneficial to all Americans and to Republicans. What's the action item? 20 seconds. What should our listeners be doing?
First off, call your House members, Senate members. Separate bill on Israel that's paid for. That's what they ought to be doing right now.
Okay. All right. That's the action item. Senator Scott, great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Tony. Bye-bye.